Hey, Sooner football fans. This is your Sooner football fans podcast. This episode is Tailgate Like a Champion, Florida Atlantic game. We have 4 segments. Adrian's Brew with Adrian from Houston, a.k.a. The Forest Witch on Twitter. Then we have Cooking the Competition with Tim Harless from Midwest City. And then Tailgate Games with Dan Donnelly. We close out with Talking with Champions. We have former Sooner Anthony Fogle on with us. Sooner football fans is not affiliated with the University of Oklahoma, but we do have eligibility left. Boomer.
Hey, Terry.
Yes, sir.
It's football time in Oklahoma.
Yes, it is.
Have you ever wanted to say that?
Yes, I do every day.
Well, this season, don't miss out on your chance to partake in one of the greatest college football traditions there is, and that, my friend, is tailgating. Tailgate Connect is your ticket to experiencing college football pre-gaming the right way. Have you ever felt like a lost tourist on a college campus when it comes to game day? Well, your troubles are at an end, because Tailgate Connect allows you to connect with the top-tier tailgates on college campuses across the nation, including right here in Norman, Oklahoma. Find your tailgate family this season and join Tailgate Connect today. All you have to do, Terry, is go to www.tailgateconnect.com to learn more and sign up for an OU tailgate. But if you do, be sure and tell them that OU Sooner Fan Podcast sent you. Put us in your referral box.
Sounds like a plan. Do it, Sooner fans. All right, Sooner fans, time for our first segment on Tailgate Like a Champion. We're calling this segment Adrian's Brew because she is a beer aficionado. And we have on the podcast, she's going to do it every week with us, from Houston, Texas. Her name is Adrian, and she's known as the Forest Witch on Twitter. Boomer, Adrian.
Boomer. How are you guys tonight?
Fantastic. How are you?
I am great. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
So we asked you to do this segment because, we follow each other on Twitter, and I can't remember exactly what it says on your Twitter profile, but
the self-proclaimed goddess of beer and tacos.
There you go.
That's what we were looking for.
So anybody who self-proclaims themselves with beer or, is a close and dear friend of ours. So what we ask Adrian to do is to feature beers, either from the region or, something that goes with,
what goes
opponent.
with a good Florida Atlantic butt whooping?
Yeah, exactly. That's what she's here to do. So,
I did pick out a beer, and I picked out a beer from a brewery in Austin because it is called the Blue Owl Brewery. So we're playing the Owls, and I thought, that'll work. And I decided it sounded like a good one because it's still a light, refreshing. They focus on sour beers. And so it was a refreshing wheat beer, which is still really good for the hot weather that we're having. Yeah. Because Saturday's not going to be cool front football weather. No. It's still going to be burning hot. Is it ever going to be fall?
Yeah.
So you know, most of the time at a tailgate, you're trying to fill up your beer cooler with the how many beers can I get for the cheapest price beer. But if you want to step up that beer game, this is a good one. Nothing wrong with those fill up the cooler, drink all day beers, but I prefer a more craft style beer, even though this one's not a high alcohol by volume beer. Right. This brewery focuses on sour mashing, and their whole thing is they want to have the beer accentuate, not overpower it. The way we're going to overpower FAU, right? Probably right after the second half.
Right.
So, it's called Little Boss, which I thought was great because I kind of see Kiffin as that guy. And so it all just kind of fell into place when I started researching it.
It might fit his offensive coordinator a little bit better.
Absolutely. That guy, actually, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
the whole thing. That dude's been around football his whole life. I mean.
Right. Have you seen a picture of him?
I have, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, just go on, go on the Owls.
He definitely kind of makes the little boss. That would work for him, I would see.
But go check out their website, because when I pulled him up, his coach picture, he looks like he's 15.
Yes, that's what I thought too. He does not look like he doesn't look older than the players.
No.
And he's probably not older than a couple of them. So, I mean, there's a good chance there's still some dudes on there that are his age. So,
I'm just wondering if we have veto powers here, because beer from Austin. Can we do that?
I don't know. I know, but I live in Houston. Also, now next week I've got something really great lined up from the actual state. So.
Oh, okay.
So, but this one just seemed to fit. It says it's Little Boss and it's sour session wheat, and I kind of have a feeling they're going to go home with a sour look on their face. And okay. I just thought it all fit really nicely for the first game, and it was a smooth light beer. And when I drink it, they measure theirs. They've got the FAU, which is the international units of
right.
Yeah.
Alcohol.
So
measuring.
anyway, So anyway, it's not a real bitter beer. It's not real hoppy. It is a wheat-based beer. It's top fermented. So your closest name brand brewery, like national, that most everybody's probably had one of them, it's going to be closer to Blue Moon.
Okay.
It's similar to that. Now, this is like having a Blue Moon without having to go get that orange wedge, because it already has the sour notes in it. It's like having citrus with your beer, but it's already in there, but it doesn't have a denoted specific citrus. It's just sour. But it's not overly sour. It was really refreshing and really crisp and perfect for a hot day at a tailgate.
So it's called...
Also would be perfect with some fish tacos.
There comes the tacos.
Yes. I mean, you can't pick a beer and not pick a kind of taco to go with it, because there's pretty much a taco for every beer. This beer is really light, really citrusy. It's going to go perfect with some margarita grilled fish tacos. So
and it fits. It's from, you said it's the Little Owl Brewery, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, the Little Owl Brewery. We're playing the Owls. They're from Boca Raton, and you can have fish tacos, Florida. See, man, boom.
Exactly.
There it is.
So there we go. We have set up a completely themed tailgate, which I'm amazing at setting up themed parties, but we'll leave that for another time.
That's a whole nother podcast, right?
Yes. But I do feel like it was really good for the alcohol by volume is going to be similar to like what you get in a Budweiser. So it's not going to be one of those beers that like a craft beer with a really high alcohol volume where you drink 3 of them and you're kind of too buzzed to remember what your seat number is.
Right.
So, I mean, some of you are really working for that. And if you're really working to forget where you're supposed to be sitting, then I suggest you switch over to the hard liquor.
Yeah. Well, see, but
so,
the bad part of that is, and there were some folks talking about it on Twitter, when it comes to tailgating, you've got, an 11 o'clock game. And the question was, is it okay to drink beer? I can't remember who it was, but is it okay to drink beer at 9 a.m. in the morning? And of course, that started a whole conversation of.
Yeah, I mean, I made a couple of suggestions. First off, I've never been ashamed to get up and have a beer at 9 a.m. on a Saturday. Sometimes you have a rough week. Happens.
Right.
You might just finish mowing the lawn. Yes, I'm 7 o'clock in the morning Saturday mower lady. So, like, look, if you can't sleep through the lawnmower, you didn't party hard enough the night before. So. Anyway, yeah, you get up, or 11 a.m. kickoff. If you're real hardcore, you can just drink all night the night before, keep drinking, watch the game, and then pass out after.
Oh, there you go.
There are options. I'm too old for that now.
Yeah, me too. I mean that. Yeah.
In college, yes, that probably would have been my plan. Yeah. Now I'm more of I'm going to get up and have a beer at 9 o'clock on Saturday because I have no shame.
Yeah. So let's get into the game a little bit now. Okay.
Okay.
What are you expecting out of the game?
I am expecting the offense to kind of come out and just be good but regular. Like, we're not going to have to power through it, I don't feel like, with their defense.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like our offense is going to be set up to make some really big plays. I feel like their offense is good enough. Our defense is going to have to come out and prove some things. Plus, the defense is still on that I have things to prove mode from last year. Now,
and the year before.
I am not the
before.
hugest Mike Stoops hater.
Right.
I get irritated with him.
Mm-hmm.
I get irritated with the defense. But I'm also a full-on fan sunshine thumper. So I start every year fresh.
Right.
With these great expectations. Now, I've been disappointed before.
Right.
It happens, but I definitely try to start out with a fresh outlook, and I think we've got a great crop on the defense right now, and I think things are falling into place where they need to be, and I think Mike is in that, I'm going to lose my job panic mode, I better get this together. So I really think the defense is going to make a statement here, and I honestly feel like we can hold them under 30.
So, holding them under 30. Now, is that your biggest
Because
concern?
a lot of people don't think we're going to.
Yeah.
That's the big consensus. A lot of people don't think we're going to hold them under 30 because their offense is good.
Yeah.
And yes, their offense is good, but their offense is also not the same caliber as what we play defense. However, I've seen us drop the ball on defense to some teams that we should have been holding to 0.
Yeah. Happens. So
it does.
Yeah, but I mean, you're just like, pretty much all the Sooner fans out there are, the defense, it kind of falls on the defense's shoulders this year, that we've got to make improvements on that side of the ball.
Now, I absolutely feel like the offense has to come together. You've got an all-new quarterback.
Right.
I'm excited to see Kyler take the reins. I think he's great. I think that he is ready. I don't think that he has anything, there's not a whole lot of missing pieces.
Right.
For him.
Right.
Other than just he wasn't the starter last year. Well, everybody wasn't the starter sometime.
Right. Yeah.
You either come in and you come into college, you're the freshman, you start then, or you start a couple of years later. At some point, you are the guy who starts first.
Right.
So I don't really always buy into that he wasn't the starter last year. Everybody's the starter sometime.
Yeah.
You have to start somewhere.
Okay, so what's your score prediction?
My score prediction is I have OU 55 and I have FAU at 27.
Yeah, that's pretty close to, you were kind of right in the middle of me and Rob there. Rob had it 55 to 17.
Yeah.
I think I had it 52 to 24. I think is what I.
Well, I think that it'll happen like it typically happens in the first quarter. Everybody will be kicking the dust off the boots,
right?
And they're gonna rack up 2 touchdowns and a field goal pretty quick.
Yeah. So.
And then I feel like they're gonna squeak out one more of each. So, but yeah. I would love to see us hold them under 20.
Yeah.
I'd love to see 17. And I'd really like to see us drop about 65 on them, but we're not run up the score kind of people, which is a shame because I really love those games.
Yeah, and Lincoln proved it last year too that once the game's
handled,
he starts putting a different quarterback, which is a good thing.
It is a good thing, but I'm all ruthless, and I'm like, just score 70. You can.
Yeah.
Bob would keep the starting quarterback in there until 3 minutes left in the game, right. And I think Lincoln wants to get those kids, and another quarterback because you never know what's going to happen.
Well, that's true too. You are protecting your players. You've already won the game. You might as well protect your players. I mean, it's a smart move.
Yeah, but when you do get Austin Kendall in there, he needs to go down the field and score.
Yeah.
It's not run the clock out time. It's let's see what he
exactly.
can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
all right.
I mean, if there was such a big competition, then he definitely needs to go down and do some scoring to show us that was really the thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you got the Sooners winning. You got a good beer picked out. Again, it was the Little Boss from Little Owl Brewery. We won't say where it's from.
No, we'll just leave that out. I found it at Total Wine. Now, I don't know if y'all have Total Wine there, but I found it at Total Wine. But there's lots of places that sell craft beer in big selections like that.
Right.
So, but like I said, if you can't find that, the closest thing to it is Blue Moon. And Blue Moon makes an excellent pairing for fish tacos as well.
Okay. All right. And so, everybody, there's your beer selection of the week.
And your tacos.
For the week. And it comes to you from Adrian's Brew. And we sure appreciate it, Adrian.
Outstanding.
Well, thank you guys for having me on. I look forward to it again, and I will be cheering on.
All
Boomer.
right. Boomer.
I burn charcoal or I'll grill with gas. I got me a Weber that's built to last. The grill is on.
All right, Sooner fans, now it's time for to talk about mine and Rob's second favorite thing.
Second, first, it was like 1A, 1B,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah,
Terry.
this when you
I'm
go
not
into
sure here.
a tailgate. We've already we've got our brew selection, and now we got to talk about food selection, grilling, and so from we're calling this segment "Cooking the Competition."
There you go.
And we've got Tim Harless from Midwest City who's going to be doing this segment with us every week. So, Boomer, Tim.
Boomer, Tim.
Hey, Boomer Center guys, how are y'all?
Fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. Ready for Friday, ready for Saturday.
So, you're a grilling aficionado, correct?
Well, I've been labeled that, so I at least got to take it from here on out.
All right.
Well, there you go. When they start calling you that, you're like, all right, you're pretty much that. So,
Right, absolutely.
the dilemma is, for me at least with tailgates, and my wife and I were actually talking about this a couple of weeks ago, with our early games.
Yeah.
She's like, well, I don't want hamburgers and hot dogs or sloppy joes or barbecue at
Ribs.
ribs at 8:00 in the
Right.
morning.
I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that, Terry, but you go,
Right.
you go,
I mean,
you
I'm
do
not
you.
gonna judge you.
Yeah, I mean that I didn't say it was me. I
Yeah.
said that was Teresa.
Oh, okay.
I could eat a hamburger, 6 times a day, so or ribs or anything else. But it is
Right.
kind of a dilemma. People don't want, they don't want, roast beef or brisket, or those some people don't. So what do you have for us? What would be good for somebody to throw on the grill this weekend for the 11 o'clock kickoff?
Yeah, absolutely. And especially since Bob Bowlesby hates us, we got to get used to these early morning kickoffs. So
Yeah.
breakfast almost seems like the norm around this time of year. So one of my favorites, I call it the Ben Powers pancake slider. For me, I love to cook. I love to tailgate, but I hate to clean. And especially as you're trying to clean up and head into the game, it's one of the worst things ever. You feel rushed, and it's frustrating. So I do a lot of pre-stuff. I do a lot of prep, kind of not before, and take it down so that when I'm done, I just throw everything away
Right.
and have very little cleanup. So first thing I do is I get kind of a pre-made pancake batter. And it comes in a jug. You shake it up. You add water. You shake it up, and it's ready to go. And then I always put like cinnamon and stuff in it, just because it's a flavor deal. And then, your bacon or your sausage, whatever meat you like. I always cook my bacon and sausage in a skillet, just because it holds the grease and doesn't give you a grease fire. Burn your tent down, burn your neighbors down, all that kind of stuff.
That's a big
It's usually
plus.
frowned upon. And so what I do is I start with, it's either electric skillet or propane. Those are the easiest to tailgate with. And I cook my bacon or my sausage, or you can get bacon or ham or whatever you like. I cook it in the skillet just because the meat takes longer to cook. So cook the meat, bacon or sausage. And then the next thing I do is I'll start with my eggs, and all of this stuff I've already pre-made. So the eggs are scrambled. I've chopped up the jalapenos or peppers or onions, whatever you like in your eggs. And it's already in Ziploc bags, and I take it down there with me in the ice chest. Cook the bacon, cook the meat, whatever, and then I use the grease, and I grease a muffin tin that you would cook muffins in, grease that with the grease from the bacon or the sausage, and then I put my scrambled egg mixture in those muffin tins and just cook it right there on top of the grill top. It doesn't need direct heat because it'll burn the bottom, but basically it cooks kind of a half inch thick scrambled egg mixture for you. Yeah, it's like a patty. Yeah, and so you don't have to have any utensils to flip it or whatever. You just kind of move it around as the heat gets hot and mix it up a little bit. So from there, you got your meat already cooked, your eggs are cooking, and then you make your pancakes. And the best way for me is just a grill, something to put on top of your grill, some type of flat top, something easy. And with that poor mixture, honestly, I can't taste the difference if you doctor it up, if you use kind of a pre-made deal, or you're making pancakes from scratch. I mean, at some point, pancakes are pancakes. Cook your pancakes up. You don't want them real big, or your sandwich will be, 8 inches around on the top, and then you have to fill it with the stuff. So, small size pancakes, cook those things up. And then what I do is I just put it together as a sandwich, because it's just easy to eat. You don't have to have plates or forks or napkins and all that stuff. And then you can put whatever on it. I always put syrup. I always dip my bacon and stuff in syrup. I don't know if you feel like it tastes better, but
oh yeah.
So basically, you've got a breakfast sandwich. It's a breakfast burger. You don't feel ridiculous for eating a cheeseburger at 8:30 in the morning, or ribs, or those kind of things. And like we said, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm a breakfast guy, and so for me, I always like to do something I would eat at home, just because I know it's going to taste good. But this is still easy to do. And when you're done, your basic cleanup is turning the stuff off, wiping stuff down. If you've got some extra, egg mixture or vegetables that you chopped up, or pancake batter, you just throw it right back in the ice chest, and you're ready to go. So, honestly, prep before and then ease of cleanup at the end is one of my favorite things, because I feel like I get a good meal. I didn't kill myself in the process.
Right. Always easy is best, especially at a tailgate.
That sounds fantastic. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie.
It's the KISS method.
Yeah, it does. It's kind of making my stomach growl right now just thinking about it. So.
Well, you're welcome.
So, let's get into a little bit of game talk.
Okay.
What do you think? What are your hopes, wishes, thoughts about the Sooners game with the Florida Atlantic Owls?
Well, I think I love Lincoln's approach to it. Of you always want to build your opponent up to, it's the mental game within the physical game, and you want to keep your players focused and all of that kind of stuff. But I mean, in all reality, the defense that we have is going against the best offense they'll face all year. And so no matter what FAU can throw at our defense, they've seen better already. They've seen a better running back. They've seen a better quarterback. They've seen better receivers. And so I think for a first game, you want to play somebody that you feel somewhat comfortable with or familiar with, and it fits really well for the first game, because they're playing a bunch of athletes who can run and do the things that they've seen for 5, 6, 7 weeks straight.
Right.
If this were Army first game, it would scare me more, because you just can't prepare for that.
Right.
You've got to adapt within the game itself. And so I know what the line is. The optimist in me thinks it's probably too low for what could happen. The realist in me thinks it's probably pretty accurate just for the first game. You're going to have all kinds of things you need to iron out and adjustments you need to make. But, if I'm going to pick Lincoln Riley over Lane Kiffin, I'm going to do that 100 times out of 100. He's brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, he's an offensive guru. And so, and you got to factor in Kyler Murray. He can throw the ball. He's a baseball player. He's played quarterback his whole life. But he's got the X factor that he runs a 4.3 40, and FAU can't get ready for that.
Right.
They don't have a guy like that. And
right.
so I think really OU is in a better spot than what FAU is, because they've got just as much unknown, not to mention the stable of running backs that we've got.
And it is the stable is full of
it is full.
Yeah,
all good points.
Yeah,
we're going to have more better transfers than most schools have players, just from the studs we've got. So.
Yeah. So what's your score prediction?
Oh man, put me on the spot. I'm going to go 52-23.
Yeah, that's about where
a lot of people are hitting right in that range.
right in that range.
But if I get that, I win something. I'm sure. I'm sure there's a prize.
Now I can tell you, the guys from Florida Atlantic podcast, when we dropped our scores on them on their podcast, they were in awe. I mean, they were like, oh, really? You think there's going to be that much? It's like, well, we scored that much on everybody but Texas last year, so I don't see what the difference is other than Baker.
If we can score that many on Georgia, I like my chances against the Eagles.
Yeah, pretty much, the big change, and it's a big one, is the Baker factor. But I think that you're not going to replace that, but I think you're going to see a different whole different scheme of offense than what we've seen the last 3 years. So
absolutely, and with the line we've got, I think Mason Rudolph would have had a Heisman career behind this line. So
yeah.
For me, it almost doesn't. You hate to say it, but it almost doesn't matter who's playing quarterback with the running backs and the skill position in that line that they've got.
Right, and to some extent, I've said that. I'm pretty sure I could get out there and be pretty successful behind them. So
let's not get carried away.
Sling one down.
All right. So your recommendation for this week, guys, on the grill, it's called Ben Powers Pancake Sliders. It's simple, easy to clean up, easy to fix. So if you go back and listen, write down exactly what he did or whatever. And Tim's going to be on every week with us, choosing, telling somebody, a different meal to cook on the grill. So, since we had a breakfast, and pretty much going to have to maybe look at the same thing next week.
Maybe.
With UCLA at noon. So
yeah, you can stretch that into lunch if you want to.
Yeah. But anyway, that's cooking the competition with Tim Harless. And Tim, we'll talk to you next week. Boomer.
Absolutely. Boomer Thunder, guys.
Okay, Sooner fans. Now we're changing it from
switching gears from drinking and eating and drinking to what else is there to do at a tailgate.
Mm-hmm. Most people think, well, that's what you do at a tailgate.
Watch football.
And watch football. Yeah. But no, we've got a segment called Tailgate Games, and we've got Dan Donnelly on with us from Northern California, and he also runs Tailgate Connect. Mm-hmm. So and Dan is a Sooner fan, so we've got him on doing the tailgate games section. So we've got Dan Donnelly. Boomer Dan.
Boomer back at you, Terry.
How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. I'm in West Lafayette, Indiana, here for the Purdue Northwestern game tomorrow to kick off the 2018 season.
See, and that's what I'm going to hold. We're going to hold our claim is that Dan is the tailgate ninja.
Right, okay. He's the tweet us out some pictures, I think.
The guy is if you want to know about tailgates, talk to Dan. Because he's out there now. How many do you got lined up to go to this year?
This year's going to be a pretty modest one. I've got a daughter in high school who's cheering on Friday night, so I'm trying to be back for at least half of those games. So probably minimum will be 12 games, maximum 15.
Wow.
So that's down from a typical year of kind of traveling around, but it's still a good amount.
Yeah. So tell us what else can we be doing other than everybody has a TV, radio, and they got good food cooking, cold drinks flowing. What else is there to do at their tailgates?
Nice thing is that whatever games I'm going to talk about pair really nicely with cold drink as well. So as a matter of fact, most of them are mandatory, and you can actually kind of improve the rules a little bit if one of your hands is occupied with a 12-ounce can or a red Solo cup. So let me tell you a little about one that I just actually bought, and it showed up about 2 weeks ago, and it was like a kid on Christmas morning once again. I looked outside, and there's the big Amazon box, or not Amazon, but it was a UPS box, and it's a company. They're called QB54, and they're headquartered in New Jersey. And let me see if I can describe the game to you real quick. So the apparatuses are two chairs, like chairs that you'd sit in at a tailgate. But what you do is you take the back strap off, and you affix these two goal posts to each chair, and then you flip open the seat itself has like a Velcro kind of topping to it. You just open the Velcro topping, and there's like a basket in the bottom of the seat made out of a net. So you space these two chairs about 40 feet apart, And you've got, let's say, Terry, you're on one side, Rob, you're on the other, and we have a football. And the objective of it is you take the football and you throw it the 40 feet and you try to land it in the basket, kind of like cornhole, but now you got a football. And you got a basket.
Yeah.
And so there's all kinds of different ways to score. So you get 6 points for a touchdown. You can actually kick it and get 3 points for a field goal. You kick it for an extra point. If the person, let's say you're throwing it and it bounces off the chair and Rob catches it in the air, Rob gets, I think it's 2 or 3 points for that too. So the person on the other end kind of has to pay attention also. So like I said, if you have the beer in the hand and you're trying to catch it with one hand, then that's a very skilled player.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So basically that's kind of like a safety. If it bounces off the chair and Rob grabs it, he gets a safety.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. So we tested it out. We had a little dry run in my backyard on Saturday. There were, I call it 0 week. It's almost football. There were four games, and we had barbecue going and pulled the game out, and we played it a little bit. It got interesting after one of the neighbors had more than a couple of beers, and he he got a little aggressive going after the ball as it was bouncing around.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty excited to break it out in a real tailgate this year, and it's interesting because I had some friends who had also purchased it, and I had no idea. So when I had announced that I bought it, they're sending me notes. Oh, this is a great game. This is so much fun.
Yeah. Now, what's the name of it? You said it's made by QB54. What's
QB54. And they're actually a partner of ours at Tailgate Connect. So if anyone's interested on that, they can go to the www.tailgate connect website and scroll to the bottom and click on their logo. And there's a discount code for that game if you go through the Tailgate Connect site.
Right. And that's the name of the game is QB54.
Yep. QB54.
Okay.
There's some meaning behind it. I read it. I can't remember what it means, but there's some meaning there.
Yeah. Okay.
I just thought it was a fun game.
Yeah. So, moving on to the game, what are your thoughts about the Florida Atlantic Owls coming into Norman?
Yes, I owed you an answer after we talked last time. The starting quarterback for FAU is the kid who was at the Last Chance U 2 years ago. DeAndre Johnson. And so after watching that season 2, I think I mentioned to you, I thought the kid was an absolute stud.
Yeah.
He had some trouble. Obviously, he got in trouble in Florida before his first season ever started and was dismissed from the team. But watching him, it looked like he grew up quite a bit in season 2 of Last Chance U. And, he's playing against junior college kids and that, but he just, he was a man amongst boys.
Right.
And I'm watching that and I'm like, oh my God, I hope he's still not at FAU.
And he is.
He is. Yeah. And I saw I guess he's number 1 on the depth chart, so we'll see him on Saturday. But beyond him, Lane Kiffin's done a good job of pulling in some other junior college stars, and he's recruited pretty well in that area in a short amount of time. Not a fan of Lane, but I'll give the guy his due for doing what he did last year in turning the team around. So I think it's hard to predict. Game 1 is almost like a preseason game. You don't know what we're going to get out of the gate. But OU's depth and I think overall size will wear them down.
Right.
First half could be dicey. It could be a little bit dicey until everybody figures out their sea legs. Lane's notorious for having tricks up his sleeve. So there's going to be some things that we'll probably see that you just don't practice for. And that's the hard part to predict. But where OU probably goes 2 to 3 deep in most positions, FAU is they're going to get pretty thin if any of their starters go out of the game.
Right. Well, and like Lincoln said last night on his coach's show, there's no film on any of these guys. You can't
right.
You can't go back and study and go, what are these guys? The quarterback, what are they going to do with them? There's nothing, because the guy that they had last year is completely different than the 3 that are still fighting for it now. So
that's right.
It's going to be interesting. So what's your final score? Give us a prediction on the score.
So for first half tight, third quarter we start to wear them down. Fourth quarter, I think 21 points is. I guess that's the spread right now.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to talk about point spreads, but that's just hard for me to accept right now. The first game of the year, we just don't know.
Right.
And how ready is everybody? So I'm thinking it's a 2-score game. I know the fans would love to hear everybody say, "Oh yeah, we're going to win by 35 or 40." Hopefully they do, but just knowing it's game one, and game one, everybody has some jitters. You might not necessarily see the product this week that we're going to see in 3 and 4 weeks.
Right. Okay.
So
you still didn't pick a score, man.
Honestly, I'm not a good. Hey, I'm the guy when I go to Vegas, I call it charitable contributions. So don't take my word. I'm not a good gambler.
But all right, well, let's just again, the game is QB 54. Sounds like fun. You'd put a picture out, I think, on Twitter, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah,
I sure did.
yeah. So go to their Twitter account, Tailgate Connect's Twitter account, and check it out. You can probably scroll through, or maybe Dan throw it back out there again. For the QB 54 game, if you're looking for something different, or the new game for the upcoming season to make your tailgate stand out, that's definitely one to have. So, but Dan, we appreciate it, and have fun. Where are you at again? West Lafayette?
Yeah, Purdue.
Purdue.
Right.
He's at Purdue. So have fun watching the tailgating and, catching the Purdue game. And I'm sure you're going to catch the Sooners on Saturday too, though.
Oh, I'll be having a backyard tailgate at 9 a.m. back on the West Coast for that one. So looking forward to it.
All right. Well, we sure appreciate it. Okay.
Thanks a lot, Dan.
Gentlemen, thanks so much.
All right, now it's time on Tailgate Like a Champion for a segment we were calling Talking with Champions. He's a former Sooner DB from 1993 to 96. He played in the NFL. He's a radio personality, and he's the current coach at Northeast Academy Football. We have former Sooner Anthony Fogel. Boomer, Anthony.
Boomer Sooner, hey, it's glad to be here. I'm excited, just like everybody else, I'm pretty sure, for the upcoming Sooner season, and I know that, for the Northeast Vikings, they're excited about having, a game this week as well. It's been a long time coming, but, finally we get a chance to go out and, see what we love seeing, and that's the game of football.
That's right. So who do the Vikings have this weekend?
Oh, we've got the defending state champion 3A John Marshall Bears, so that will be a tough test for us. Hopefully we can answer the call on that one.
All right. Well, we ask you on because we're gets former Sooners on here, and just wanting to share, Sooner memories. What are some of the memories of first game week or anything as your time here as a Sooner that you'd want to share with the fans out there?
I think that's the biggest memory. Even though I played during a time that they like to call the down years, was just the experience of actually walking out into the practice field. A lot of people don't realize that really where your first memory starts is your first day. And just the anticipation, the expectations of walking out on that practice field, wearing that crimson helmet. And they didn't have the O and the interlocking U on it at the beginning, because you kind of had to earn that O and U. Just being a part of something that was so much bigger than you, even though you might have been a much ballyhooed recruit, showed all of us, I think, coming in 93, that we had to try our hardest to live up to the expectations that had been set by so many people before us that, had the blood, sweat, and tears on that field. So you're almost in awe just at practice, just, seeing people looking over the fence, wanting to come in and watch because they were so invested in the program from a fan standpoint. So just that overall awe of understanding that this is so much bigger than you probably ever imagined while you were getting recruited was something that was very, very powerful for me.
Yeah. Well, speaking of recruiting, we've talked about this a lot. Facilities have become a huge part of recruiting nowadays. And it's, who's bigger and better, and we're always upgrading and upgrading. Tell us what it was like coming into the facilities at Oklahoma back in 92, 93, and then what the facilities are like now, because it's night and day, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and when I was in high school, we shared a stadium with about 3 or 4 teams, so they were decent, but walking into OU at that point in time, it was like, wow, this is really, really nice. And now I've seen firsthand some of the upgrades and things that they've done. I'm a fan of making sure that people can come to the situation as far as a game and experience, luxury while you're watching it, because nobody wants to be in cramped seats and nobody wants to be, in a situation where they're in the nosebleeds and not have a very good view. But as a player, I have to imagine and hope that they're not so much caught up in the bling and all the razzle dazzle, and they're more focused on the goal at hand, and that is to actually try, to get to the college football playoff and have an opportunity to win the national championship. But I think this generation that we're dealing with now does get a little bit more caught up in, what do I have as opposed to what LSU has, or what do I have as opposed to what Alabama has. So I call it the facility wars because, we have to upgrade and keep doing things even in a 4 or 5 year increment to be able to keep up with the next Alabama or the next USC, because it seems like these powerhouses eventually get new coaches, and once those guys start doing well, they start pouring tons of money into the program, and I don't see it changing any way, shape, or form. I think it's going to continue going for a long time now.
Yeah, Rob, fans know that Rob works down at the stadium, and he's been in there several times, and his big deal is, it doesn't even smell like a locker room. It's a locker room is supposed to smell like sweat, and stuff. And he goes, man, it's clean, shiny. It's like you said, it's this generation, I think, of players, and the recruiting process. I mean, we've got, Huddle is out there, which I, call Facebook for football players. I mean, they promote themselves, and then, it's almost like, part of it is, what does the facilities look like? What is they doing for me? But I'm like you. I think Oklahoma's doing a great job of going, you're coming into not just great facilities, you're coming into something special, and a program that is rich in heritage and expectations, both of the university and probably more of the fans. The fans expect a lot.
Right. And you got to think also, I mean, most guys that are coming in that situation, if you're doing things the right way recruiting, they're looking at OU as almost a stepping stone to get someplace a little bit better as far as being able to get paid for what you're doing. So if you're recruiting those kind of kids whose ambition is to go to college, get an education, and have an opportunity to go on to the next level, and you're getting really high recruiting classes, I have to imagine in my mind that, well, if I'm here for 3 or 4 years and I can get my degree and move on and move forward, but also have a chance to be able to play at the next level, I really think that at that point in time, their focus is a little bit more on the next step as opposed to the step that they're going into.
All right. Well, let's get into just a little bit of the game talk. The Florida Atlantic Owls, which I'm still not sure. We had some fans on from Florida Atlantic podcast yesterday, and I forgot to ask them if owls are indigenous to Boca Raton, Florida. I'm pretty sure they're not, but Lane Kiffin brings the Owls in here. They got a super running back on the offensive side of the ball. What do you think? What are your thoughts on the game this weekend? They bring in 10 starters back on defense. Rob and I have talked before on the podcast that if the Sooners, they scheduled this game 5 years ago or more, if Lane Kiffin was there, they probably don't schedule this game. Because Oklahoma always has that mid-major game. What do you think about this team he's bringing in here?
Well, I think that when they settle their quarterback situation, guys that are transferred in, they'll probably get they'll probably get a little bit more continuity. And that's always a hard thing when you're walking in and you're bringing in that many guys that are competing for a spot. Yes, they've had some success, and yes, that's a program that's kind of been built from the ground up. But my biggest concern, and one thing that I hope that OU fans kind of take into, I would not say take into the context of it could be bad, but just understand that this is a possibility. Baker Mayfield is a first-round pick that many people question nationally. Right. But as I've watched him throughout the preseason, he can hold his own in the NFL. And that's saying something for a guy that people question his height, people question a lot of things, even his character. And it's very difficult at times to just insert another person into that position, much less to insert someone who already pretty much has their near career right at their fingertips. Right. In Murray. I mean, this is a guy who, has guaranteed millions. And my biggest concern, and I guess we'll see it really quick, is how committed is he to giving up his body in a certain situation for the benefit of a team where he knows moving forward that this is kind of like the one last chance that you have to be able to say you were a college football player and started at OU, but right. You've got a lot of money moving forward in the future. Do I slide? Do I jump over somebody? Do I stay in the pocket just a little bit longer knowing I'm going to get hit to complete that pass? I mean, my biggest concern, not a worry, but my concern is, does the money affect the guy who knows that money is coming in as opposed to being a college guy who's out there trying to make that kind of money?
Right.
And I think that's going to be huge for this season because, at what point in time do you look at your near future where you kind of understand where you're going as opposed to something that you're only pretty much guaranteed to do for one season?
Yeah, I haven't. We've talked about the him going to the pros and everything. I haven't looked at it like that. And by the way, Anthony, Rob just got in here. He joined us.
How's it going, Anthony? Sorry about that.
Oh, going great.
But is he with the baseball contract lingering? Is he going to be able to or willing to put himself out there physically like that? I would think, as much as apparently he wants to play for Oklahoma, again, kudos to his manager for getting an agreement for him to play at least 1 year at Oklahoma. But I hadn't thought about it that way. That is he willing to put it out, stay in the pocket a few another half second, 3 seconds, and take the hit. See, now you made us think.
Right.
Now
I'm sorry, I just joined this
now you made me worry.
But I think that the coaches are going to keep a pretty close eye on that. I think it's probably crossed their mind, even though it hasn't crossed ours. So I think they'll probably keep a pretty good eye on that. And if that's the case, I think they'll probably make a switch.
And that would probably give the fans a mild stroke. Now, which, speaking of mild strokes in the team, the Oklahoma defense. Okay. Last year was the 67th ranked defense. Most people, including myself and Rob, believe that if we were the 47th ranked defense, we might be carrying around national championship, from last year. What are your thoughts on the improvement on the defense? I call it drinking the defensive Kool-Aid. I'm not yet. That the defense is better, more physical. What do they got to do to change this defense, to get the defense to be as high-powered as our offense is?
Well, I think that confidence is probably 95 to 90% of what you do in the game of football. And in order for OU, in my opinion, to improve defensively, and a lot of times the 47th and 71st may be the difference between giving up 395 total yards as opposed to giving up 385 total yards.
Yeah.
And really and truthfully, what it comes down as far as me defensively is how many opportunities do you have to make big plays, and do you make them? that I think is something that we kind of got spoiled with in 99, 2000 with the Calmuses and that entire crew that came through early, the Derek Straits. Everybody seemed to want to make that big play, and they always made it at the most opportune time.
Right.
And as the years went by, we don't see as many of those big plays. It appears, I would imagine, to the average fan that it's that bend but don't break mentality. Honestly, you're playing for Florida Atlantic, and you want to have some good things happen to you positively on defense. I still believe that they have the personnel to be able to do it, but at some point in time, they've got to pull the trigger and take a calculated risk in certain times to be able to say, if it's going to be, it's going to be me.
Right.
And once you start building that confidence, it becomes contagious with the entire defense. And now everybody wants to make big plays, and everybody wants to get the turnover, and everybody wants to strip the ball away from the running back if someone's tackled them and they've got them held up at the line of scrimmage. That's a mentality that comes with that success of making big plays. I still believe that they do have kids that can do it. But we've got to see some leaders step up on the defensive side of the ball and decide this is what they're going to be defensively, and we're going to make good big plays, and we're going to play solid, sound defense, and not put ourselves in a position where we're giving up the big play.
That's a good point. I mean, that's, and we haven't seen that, and we as fans have longed for that aggressive style. The Rocky Calmuses, Derek Straits, all of those guys. It's like where have those guys gone? They're there. Maybe they're there. They just haven't pulled it. Pulled the aggressiveness out of themselves.
Well, we want to see them this year.
Yeah. Yeah, because I tell you, I'm 51 years old, and my body can't take another Baylor game like last year or Oklahoma State game. It just my goatee is gray and my head is bald, and I rate that to 7 or 8 Saturdays out of a year that causes that.
How are you going to blame that on OU football? Come on, that's all right.
Okay, well, it's the Florida Atlantic Owls, and we did a podcast, like I said, with Inside the Borough, a fan podcast down in Boca Raton, and we had to ask them about Howard, so we have to ask you about Howard Schnellenberger. What was your Howard Schnellenberger year like? What was he like? What was that whole, I'm not going to call it fiasco, but it seemed like it became one towards the end of the year.
It was very short, but for me it seemed extremely long.
It's like a bad movie that you can't get out of. Is that what you're saying?
It was pretty much like Groundhog Day. I definitely feel like he had the right intentions. I just think that geographically, the style of football that he wanted to coach, not the style of football that he wanted to play, but the style of football that he wanted to coach, didn't mesh well with the players.
Right.
And he had a lot of headbutting with players and coaches, including himself. Does his philosophy as far as what he wanted to do, aside from not drinking water and things like that, does that, hold weight even today? Yes, and you see a lot of programs that have modeled themselves after some of the philosophies that he has. However, the dynamic of the Texas and the Oklahoma kid on one team at a place like OU, because we were heavy Texas and we were heavy Oklahoma, we were used to a certain way of coaching and a certain style.
Right.
And he was used to the Florida style of coaching. And honestly and truthfully, I've been to all 3 states. There are different kind of kids in those different states. And you've got to kind of adapt and adjust to find out what makes a kid tick and what gets a kid ticked off. And I think that his initial first days there, it was more of the being ticked off than it was to making me tick.
Right.
But I have the utmost respect for him. Now, there were certain things that I did not agree with him on, and as a head coach right now, I would never do this to the kids that I coach.
Right.
But I think his heart was there, and I think that he had a vision for OU. But this is Oklahoma, and it's not Florida.
Right.
And some of the stuff that can fly in Florida won't get off the ground in the state of Oklahoma. And I think that was his undoing. And you know, I never really had a chance to talk to him after. I think I may have talked to him one time after he left or got fired from OU. And I can remember in that conversation, you know, he expressed a little bit of remorse for how he handled certain situations. But then he leaves and he goes and starts a program, and, you know, they were, you know, on start the program standards, successful for what they were doing. I mean, so the man can coach. I just think that he got out of his element, and you know, certain people, I think like Mac Brown and even Tom Herman, feel more comfortable in the state of Texas than maybe they feel in California.
Right.
And then that's something that moving forward, you know, for every program, I think they have to consider, where are these guys' roots as far as being a head coach? How do they get along with your recruiting base, like your main area that you're going to recruit? And I remember a lot of people when Urban Meyer was in the situation that he was in, you know, Bob Stoops' name came up as the next guy there. I mean, that would make sense if he wanted to coach again, because he's familiar with that area, and I think he understands how those kids are as opposed to how kids in Oklahoma and Texas are.
Yeah. Well, I remember it vividly when they announced Howard as the new coach, and I remember, you know, the media was excited, the fan base was excited, because, you know, we went and got a, you know, seasoned coach, a national championship coach. He was, you know, rebuilding Louisville. They had gone from nothing to a pretty solid team. And I think I agree with you. I mean, you know, all the other stuff, you know, with the players, obviously we don't know about, but he just wasn't a fit. It just seemed like if he was going to argue or put his point out there, and it didn't matter what anybody else thought, whether it was fans, which, you know, and I agree that we don't really matter, but you got to be a little bit political, you know.
Well, we know he was that type of coach, though.
Oh yeah. But you know, and I think when it started going downhill, and when the media jumped on, you know, the anti-Howard bandwagon, was when the Colorado game, which was a great game. Oklahoma ended up losing it. And they asked him about adjustments at halftime, and he said, well, you don't make adjustments. You know, that's just, you know, media talk or whatever, however he put it, you know, but you don't make adjustments. 5 minutes later in the Colorado news conference, Neuheisel says, well, we made adjustments, and that's how we won the game. We changed what we were doing as opposed to what they were doing. And they just kept asking him, and he, you know, the next week, and he was just solid on that. You don't make adjustments. You have a game plan, and da-da-da-da-da. And that's when I think fans turned on him, you know, everything. But people forget, one of the things that I think is hilarious is we call ourselves Sooner Nation. That's the guy who coined that phrase. He called Oklahoma Sooner Nation, and it is stuck with it ever since. People don't remember that, but go look and see, you know, Barry coined, you know, Sooner Magic. Howard Schnellenberger coined Sooner Nation.
I don't know about that, Terry. I don't know about that. We may have to do some research.
So,
right. Well, you know, I think that was a little bit of a play on the word, because, you know, we're getting ready for a game tomorrow or on Thursday. The one thing that we know is that we've got about 5 or 6 things that we already know are our adjustments.
Right.
So if we do something different, and you walk up to me after a game and I say we didn't make any adjustments, that's probably because we've got 5 of the things other than the first thing we did that we knew we had to do.
Right.
I think that when you get with an older school guy, that feels like, hey, we're going to go out there and do what we do.
Right.
And if you can stop it, you can stop it. But we've got these things that we do that is their adjustment, whereas Newhouse at that time was a younger coach, and they may have already had 5 or 6 things that they felt like they could do against us that night against Colorado, and he would call that an adjustment. And I think that's kind of a little bit of a play on words, but
right.
I believe that the media at that point in time, and I wasn't in the media because I was actually playing, kind of got just a little bit tired of the arrogance.
Yeah.
And it's really weird because I talked to Coach Switzer about a week and a half ago, and he is pretty arrogant, but he was Oklahoma arrogant.
Yeah.
And that's something that may be a phrase that we might have to coin. That there's something about Oklahoma arrogance where you are arrogant, but you still have some humility to you.
Yeah.
That people kind of gravitate towards.
Yeah. Good. Good old boy mentality, I guess,
Exactly.
But okay, well, what's your game prediction against the Owls?
Oh man. I think it's going to be a little bit lower scoring than a lot of people may think. I think that they're going to try to run the ball against OU and establish that run game. I don't see them playing 3 quarterbacks. I think they're going to go with who they really feel gives them the best chance to win, because the one thing you don't want to do is throw 3 different guys out there against a team that has pretty much the best team speed that you're probably going to see all year, depending on who else they play down the line. I see this being a lower scoring game with OU winning 28-21.
Woo!
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, well, I mean, Sooner Nation just gasped.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because
well, you got to remember, this is the first game, and you're going against a team that knows how to win. There may be a little bit of ring rust. You are breaking in a new quarterback.
Yeah.
He's probably going to make a few mistakes just because this is his time to kind of shine. And don't expect out of Kyler Murray what you saw, last year with Baker Mayfield. It's going to take a little bit of time for him to get acclimated to the offense and seeing some new people. So I just don't think it's going to be one of those 55-45 type games.
Okay. Well, you're the first we've heard with that. So y'all heard it here, or unless you put it out somewhere else. But that.
No, you're the first person that's heard that.
Well, there you go. So I mean, I think it's going to be a better game than what most Sooners think. I think it's still going to be in question at halftime, but I just think Oklahoma eventually, they're just, they're just more talented. They're going to wear them out. They're going to get a healthy dose of Anderson and Sermon and that big old offensive line all day long. And they're just, I think, eventually going to wear them down, but.
And so I guess I'm then the typical fan, because I feel like we're going to go through them like warm butter. I mean, they lost to Buffalo and who else? Navy.
Wisconsin and Navy last year.
I mean, and there were other teams that are just terrible that were they just barely beat. So I mean, unless they really, really improved, and I'll have to see that before I believe it. I really just think it's going to be 55-17.
Yeah, right. And we were on another podcast, one down in Florida, the same guys that did ours, and Rob about gave them a heart attack when he goes 55-17. They're like, whoa!
I mean, come on. Look who they played last year. They played absolutely no one except for Wisconsin, who Wisconsin gave them a pretty good bump on the head. I mean, and, Wisconsin's not a world beater. They were a solid team, and that's why they thumped them up pretty good.
Yeah.
I think we're going to go right through them. I think we're going to run up and down the field. I think we're going to pass up and down the field. I think they'll have some success running the football because that back is legit, but he's not going to run, 35 points on us.
Yeah. So.
Well, the one thing you got to remember now, how much does OU want to show? And if you can control the game running the football, the one thing
that's a good point.
They will have on the defensive side of the ball on their side is a guy that can maybe run someone down to shorten the game by getting first downs and then the clock runs. And that's kind of where I'm thinking. If you're going to run the ball, unless you're breaking against a team that has no team defensive speed, that 70-yard run takes about 9 seconds off the clock.
Right.
But if they have guys that can actually tackle you after a 20-yard gain, the clock's still running. And if I'm OU, I don't want to show too much of anything that I can do with Kyler Murray for somebody to look at down the line. So if I can show the least amount and run about 6 plays and be okay with that and have the game secure, I'm going to do that. I don't want, a potential matchup in a Big 12 championship game against West Virginia for them to be able to go back and look at that game one film, and you've got to throw the kitchen sink at a team like Florida Atlantic. So, I mean, part of it is the coach in me saying I don't want to show a lot, and if we can beat them, keep people healthy, make the game short, run the ball, let's just get out there with the W. We're not doing it for style points right now. And just have everybody in a situation where they can look forward to the next week, and everybody's healthy and nobody's in a situation where they're not playing.
It's a great point. Absolutely great point. I didn't even
You've been schooled, Rob.
Yep. I'll take it. That's why he's the pro and I'm not. I'm just a fan. Yep.
Yeah, but Anthony, hey, we appreciate you coming on. Good luck. You say you played John Marshall Thursday night? Or
yes,
Friday?
Sir.
Yeah, you play the defending state champions on Thursday night. Have you already argued with whoever scheduled that game and said don't ever do that again? Don't give me the defending state champions on game one. That was never.
Well, as they say, we're Class A right now, and we're playing 3A. But my man Ric Flair said, to be the best, you've got to beat the best. So
there you go.
I don't mind seeing a challenge. I know they're going to bring it, and we're going to try to go out there and do the best we can and match up with them and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah. Well, best of luck with that. And you're going to make it to the game on Saturday?
I am definitely planning to. If not, it's going to be because I can't stop watching film until 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm probably going to be passed out and not be able to make it.
Yeah. All right. Well, swing by, our tailgate. We're going to have a tailgate. I still don't know where it's at yet, but, I'll let you know where our tailgate is. And if you get to the game, holler at me and come on by. But
I will definitely do that.
But we sure appreciate you coming on with us and hope we can do it again sometime. Thanks a lot.
Definitely. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
That's it, Sooner fans, for Tailgate Like a Champion Florida Atlantic game. Right now, whatever app you're listening to, click on the subscribe button so it'll download to your app and you'll never miss a podcast. We'd like to once again thank our special guest, Anthony Fogle, former Sooner, for coming on and sharing some memories with us and talking Sooner football. Sooner football fans, it's not affiliated with the University of Oklahoma, but we do have eligibility left. Beat FAU. Boomer.